Deputy Speaker, the Coalition oversaw a decade of wasted opportunities and misguided priorities that left Australia with falling real wages, cost of living pressures and $1 trillion of debt without an economic dividend to show for it. They arrogantly believed they were solving this by simply being in power. They were the performing statue of politics, largely doing nothing but expecting applause for imperceptible movement. Deputy Speaker, what they do have to show, though, for nearly a decade of power was leaving us with the worst cost of living crisis this nation has ever faced. And Deputy Speaker, the Albanese government has been working overtime to deliver for hard-working Australian families. We've worked overtime because those opposites sat in government for 9 years and did nothing. They barely moved. Australians understand that we didn't create these challenges, but they elected us to take responsibility for addressing them, and we are. The government is tackling this cost of living crisis in a range of ways. We've laid the groundwork to get wages moving. We've introduced cost of living measures to support people with the cost of medicine and childcare. We are working on fixing skilled labour shortages, as well as growing the economy the right way and making us more resistant against future shocks. Deputy Speaker, the government knows that households are feeling the pressure. That's why our plan has been to provide targeted relief to households and to ensure that through government programs and government spending we aren't making a bad situation worse. No colour coding here. One of the very first acts of the Albanese government was to successfully argue for the minimum wage to keep pace with inflation, an outcome which helped 2.7 million Australians, and we know was against the architectural beliefs of those opposite. But what else have we already done to address cost of living pressure for households, Deputy Speaker? On the 1st of January, millions of Australians saw a 29% drop in their PBS prescriptions, with the maximum PBS co-payment dropping from $42.50 to $30. For the first time in the 75-year history of the PBS, the co-payment for general scripts has fallen. For a family relying on 2 or 3 medications, this can put as much as $450 back into their household budget. And Deputy Speaker, from the 1st of July this year, more than 1 million families across the country will be able to access more affordable early childhood education. In my electorate of Bean alone, 6,600 families will be better off. And additionally, the childhood education subsidy for families earning $80,000 or less will increase to 90%. These changes will provide household budget relief for families struggling with the cost of living. Deputy Speaker, let's also talk about the important work this government is doing to fix the skills shortage. In the ACT, students will be able to access fee-free courses at the Canberra Institute of Technology in my electorate as the Albanese government and ACT government signed a landmark 12-month skills agreement to address the current skills shortage. The agreement will inject more than $16.5 million into the ACT skills and training sector, with immediate support for over 2,500 fee-free TAFE places at CIT this year. And Deputy Speaker, what exactly was the former government's plan heading into this election? Into the election. It certainly wasn't to have a tailored response to address the cause of this cost of living crisis. It wasn't to implement policies that will address labour supply. It wasn't to address expenses such as cheaper medicine or to put downward pressure on childcare fees. It clearly wasn't to lift wages. And what's their plan now? To block every proposal to reduce cost of living pressure on families. Those opposite claim to be superior economic managers, and yet all they can manage to say is no. The economy we inherited was defined by a decade of stagnant wages, flatlining productivity, weak business investment, skill shortage and energy chaos. That doesn't sound like superior economic management to me, Deputy Speaker. And it's clear at the last election that the Australian people saw likewise. Deputy Speaker, the next budget will build on the strong work that we've already done, including assistance with energy bills, higher wages for aged care workers, investments in the economy. We've hit the ground running, and 2023 is a year to be optimistic about. Households are already seeing real and practical positive change, and Australian families are finally witnessing a government that doesn't hold them in contempt.
Thank you.